Mwenye kutia mtoto watu mimba kuna kusamehewa. Watu kama hawa watiwe ndani, na ikiwezekana wakabwe hayo madude yao wanaotumia kufanya uchafu kama huo. Serikali wafinyeni watu kama hao, ndio hawataweza kufanya uchafu tena. Ibadallah, inna Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yaqul wa biqawlihi yahtadi al-muhtadun fa idha qara'ta al-Qur'ana fasta'idh billahi minash shaitanir rajim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا. عباد الله، أوصي نفسي وأوصيكم بتقوى الله عز وجل، وآمركم بأمر بدأ الله بنفسه وثنى بملائكة المقدس بقدسه وثلث بنا المؤمنون، فقال الله سبحانه وتعالى إن الله ملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وآل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم، وبارك على سيدنا محمد وآل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. وارض اللهم عن الخلفاء الأربع سيدنا أبو بكر الصديق وسيدنا عمر الفاروق وسيدنا عثمان بن عفان وسيدنا علي بن أبي طالب. وارض اللهم عن شبابي أهل الجنة في الجنة الحسن والحسين وأمهما فاطمة الزهراء وجدتهما خديجة الكبرى وأزواج رسول الله وأنصار رسول الله والتابعين وتابعيهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. اللهم ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم، وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم أعز الإسلام والمسلمين وأذل المنافقين يا رب العالمين، وأذل الشرك والمشركين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم اغفر للمسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات الأحياء من الأموات برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Mwenyezi Mungu twakuomba ihifadhi Kenya yetu, wahifadhi viongozi wetu, waongoze viongozi wetu, kila wanalofanya liwe ni la sawa, na wakienda kombo Mwenyezi Mungu waongoze, waipeleke nchi yetu pale kwa sawa. Mwenyezi Mungu muongoze Mutaikagwe na vile vile Matiang'i, waziri Matiang'i, wakiweza kuweka sheria ambazo kama ziko ziwe ni za kusaidia umma, ziwe ni kusaidia. Na hii corona Mwenyezi Mungu ndio umeileta, iondoshe ya rabbal alamin ili tuishi kwa amani. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. عباد الله، إن الله يقول وبقوله يهتدون إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. فاذكروا الله العظيم يذكركم واشكروه على نعمه يزدكم ولذكر الله أكبر والله يعلم ما تصنعون. وأقم الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر.
Next on.
Ngoja niulize jamaa, nani hapa hivi amepimwa hivi majuzi?
Pale kwa Mwangi, si ni 10 bob?
Sijasema kupimwa weight. Saa hizi kupimwa HIV ni haraka na ni bure.
Here is the address of the mental hospital where Pilar will be taken this afternoon.
Naki.
Get in!
Police! Someone come help us, please!
Kukuwa na HIV si eti ni mwisho.
Wewe uko nayo?
Mimi nilishapima.
Afya bora, maisha bora. Jipime, jiinue. On the next episode of Kona.
Are you standing up for Wangoi? Like, seriously?
Yes.
Abasi, he keeps hinting about Wangui. It's like he knows something.
Yeah. Simon.
Look at you both. All grown up. So beautiful.
Sikumwambia chochote. Lakini anaonekana yuko stressed out.
Why did you leave me?
on the next episode of
Tena usiniite. Hamna tofauti. Wasikia? Tena sikiza wewe mwanamke, ulipokuwa ukifanya haya mambo yote, hukujua dhara zake. Muangalie. Mwanamke.
Jamani. Wajua Linda ametoroka wewe. Ametoroka?
Mwenda wapi na?
Hayakuhusu.
Haba siseme kitu.
Hata usiseme.
Liona nijisee.
Hatujali kazi zenu
Yeyote aliye na kinga hafifu mwilini yuko katika hatari ya kuambukizwa COVID-19. Hao ni kama watu ambao wanaishi na magonjwa kama vile virusi vya HIV, kansa, TB, kisukari, miongoni mwa magonjwa mengine. Lazima wazingatie matibabu ili kuboresha kinga mwilini. Lazima wahakikishe wamepata dawa ipasavyo. Tembelea kliniki yako au kituo cha afya kilicho karibu nawe kwa maelezo kamili kuhusu jinsi ya kupata dawa. Pia wasaidie jamaa na rafiki kupata dawa. Dumisha mawasiliano nao na ufuate mwongozo wa kiafya kutoka kwa kituo cha afya ili kujikinga na virusi vya korona. Pata habari kuhusu COVID-19 kupitia vyanzo vinavyoaminika. Piga 719 au bonyeza *719#. COVID-19 inazuilika. Jilinde, linda familia na jamii. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na serikali ya Kenya.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Channel 1 Lunchtime News. I do hope you're having a lovely day. This third day of July 2020. We have a comprehensive bulletin lined up for you. My name is Jackie Wambiru. Our sign language interpreter is Lensa Odingo. And to kick us off, we head over to Parliament buildings where the Director of Criminal Investigations, George Kinoti, is appearing before the National Assembly Security Committee on matters regarding the war on contraband. Now let's listen in.
That duplicate form and whatever had to be sent to the DCI to do that job. So Kenyans are very tough. When they want to undermine even Kinoti, they will do here. On the other committee, I belong to PIC. There was a contract. People were competing. And the person who was about to win, his tax compliance certificate from the KRA system has been withdrawn as if he is not compliant by a competitor. So we know there is no one-day solution, and that's going to be achieved, and we are very grateful for the works you are doing. The thing that affects, because it's personal, I saw a lady senator crying yesterday, is the issue. Of course, Kaluma will tell us the law says buyer be aware. We do the investigations, we do the search, we get the properties, people buy them. And one of the big four agendas of the president is housing. He wants Kenyans to live in decent houses. And when somebody buys property through that, you get affected. So I think before we get, and this, you are not the ones who do it, but as an advisory, before we take our tingas and demolish properties that people had for 20 years, 30 years, because of the way the first person has acquired, we do due diligence on how is it that we can compensate and help those who bought it innocently. So, and these other things, I think this presentation and the way I went to the office of the DCI because I never had officers, and every case of mine was taken for 150 kilometers to Wajir town. Today I have DCI officers who are doing on the ground, and a lot of small things get solved and done. Even to the extent that they sit with clan elders, you see, if I take this to this, it will cost you this, why don't you solve it? And sometimes even local solutions are found. That much with it. But the issue of innocent buyers being affected, saying this land belongs to forest, and the person suffering, what this guy is going through, it's serious. So please blend it in such a manner you can talk about the human nature of the innocent people, you know, the humanity aspect of it, of the people who are there. Thank you.
Let's conclude with you, Tekla. Time will not allow us to...
Yeah, I don't, you have not answered me on the issue of oil awaiting reshipment. Why is it still in Mombasa? So when you talked about digitization, I remember very well when Ngilu was the Minister of Lands. There was a directive and the university students were there doing the digitization.
Well, that was the DCI appearing before the National Assembly Security Committee, where they are deliberating matters regarding the war on contraband. Now, moving on, Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i says the national government remains committed to partner with county administrations in achieving the country's development agenda. Matiang'i, who was speaking during a meeting with leaders drawn from Murang'a County, said the government has also put in place adequate measures to ensure budgetary allocation for development across the counties are properly utilized.
The National Development Implementation and Communication Cabinet Committee met leaders from Murang'a County Friday to discuss how to steer development in the region. Accompanied by Energy Cabinet Secretary Charles Keter, Education CS Professor George Magoha, Transport CS James Masharia, Health CS Mutahi Kagwe, and his agriculture counterpart Peter Munya, Interior Cabinet Secretary Dr. Fred Matiang'i, who chairs the committee, pledged the government's commitment to partner with county governments in achieving its development agenda.
The President formed this coordination unit because he wanted a seamless interaction between county and national governments, and he wanted to make sure that budgets, both national and county, are aligned in terms of delivering development for our people. And so far, so good. A lot of good work has happened, and soon enough, we will give you a report on the number of projects that have been completed and expenditures on projects that have worked very well as a result of these kinds of meetings.
Matiang'i reiterated that the forum provided a chance to discuss a working formula for implementing key projects across several sectors in Murang'a County.
We are grateful that a lot of work has been done. But we have also been challenged by these leaders that there's some work in our plan that needs to be fast-tracked and moved forward faster. And we have taken that very seriously. We have made commitments here because we were all here with heads of departments, the Secretary of the Presidential Delivery Unit, because the President sent us to ensure that we are in tandem with the leaders of Murang'a in moving forward activities, including some that he himself has committed himself to with the people of Murang'a.
While hailing the move by the government, Murang'a County leaders led by Governor Mwangi Wairia and Senator Irungu Kang'ata said the plan will help transform the fortunes of the residents of Murang'a County.
I want to thank Bwana Matiang'i because he has emphasized on the issue of Kenneth Matiba Hospital, which was committed by the President some time back, and this is the spirit. So our next step is that we shall now do a review session in Murang'a, whereby as leaders we come together, we review together, and then we hit the ground, we go and directly appraise activities on the ground, and we agree on what needs to be done for those activities to happen.
We have discussed issues concerning roads, we have discussed issues concerning health, We have discussed issues concerning education, and we are very happy for the work that has been done by His Excellency in our region. And on behalf of the people of Murang'a, we are saying we are happy, but of course we have raised some issues which we are sure will be addressed.
The leaders announced that they will soon be hosting senior government officials for a tour of the county to inspect the progress made in implementing key projects. For Channel 1 News, I'm Safin Aching Oma.
Well, thank you so much, Safina Chingom, for that report. Now, moving on, police in Ekolomani, Kakamega County have launched investigations into a case where a middle-aged man allegedly killed his brother following a domestic row. Now, the suspect, who is in custody alongside 2 others, is said to have hacked the victim to death with a machete, and neighbors claim the siblings have had a strained relationship with efforts by family members to reconcile them, proving futile.
What started as a normal day for this family immediately turned into mourning. Their kin had been murdered in cold blood by his brother over a domestic row that is said to have lasted many years. According to Judith Mulama, who has now been left widowed, the differences between the 2 brothers were sparked off by an argument over her inability to bear children.
Marehemu kumtoa mara ya kwanza macho, kuna wakati miaka imepita 3, alikuja akaambia wewe mtu wa mwenye usaini pe bibi yako nikusalie mtoto. Na hiyo kitu ilikuwa saa 4 ya usiku. Alikuja paka kwa bomu. Ndio mzee wangu akasema ati mimi si sai wewe ndio unataka kunisalia mtoto. Ndio wakafatana paka kwa nyumba ya ndugu yake.
The mother to the deceased yet to come to terms with the incident, saying that efforts to resolve their long-standing conflict had been unsuccessful.
Mtoto yangu walilia tu nduru safari mbili. Sasa mimi nakuta yeye anakusha hanguka chini. Tamu tu peke yake ndio natoka. Tunaomba msamaha na lakini hawa wanakuchakataa. Tutafanya nini? Na sisi namwambia tuachie Mungu sasa.
Despite witness accounts indicating that the suspect, Weldom Kudai, hacked him with a machete, he maintains that his brother slipped and fell onto a rock that caused the injuries.
Mimi si kutumia mbinu yote kumuua. Kumshtua na akaanguka. Kuanguka chini kwake ndio mawe ilimkata.
Shemeji yangu akaniambia madaktari wanasema tafuta shilingi 2500 wampeleke kwa ICU. Hatakuwa tunaweza weza juu ilikuwa usiku.
Nancy Okware, Channel 1 News.
Away from that, victims of the recent mudslides and floods in Bomachoge-Borabu constituency have received farm inputs from the government aimed at promoting self-sufficiency. The victims, most of whom were small-scale farmers, received a total of 50 metric tons of certified maize seeds. Well, thank you so much for keeping it Channel 1. We now take a short break. Don't go too far. We'll be right back.
When the world changed, it made us go back to the simple joys and love the little things even more, like serving up your best, eating together, and sharing more. Now, we'll take nothing for granted and always remember to taste the simple joys. Coca-Cola. Taste the simple joys.
Wewe pereka huko. Unajua ni wewe tumetoa hapa ushamba juzi.
Basi tafutani mwingine mumtoa uzaba. Wewe digivia wewe.
Mbona? Najua jambo lako wewe kulala in a mental hospital should have been the first thing on your CV.
Unadhani hiyo bedroom kuachwa wazi ilikuwa kimakosa?
Kwani kitaka kwani unajua?
Nini haswa mnapanga na Chris? Basi nenda kamwambie Joel. Hakuna mahali hapa duniani mimi siwezi kufika. Mwambie. Ala, come on.
Sikufaulu.
Shut up!
Je, ungependa kujua jinsi ninavyojizuia kuambukizwa au kuambukizana virusi vya korona? Ni rahisi. Mwanzo, ninaziendesha shughuli zangu zote za kikazi na hata za kibiashara kutoka papa hapa nyumbani kwangu. Baadaye, ninaitunza mwili wangu vyema kwa kuiweka katika hali iliyo sawa kupitia mazoezi ya mara kwa mara na pia lishe bora. Mwishowe, ninaungana na jamii yangu pamoja na marafiki zangu kupitia njia ya simu au mtandao ili kuzuia dhiki na upweke wakati huu mgumu. Kumbuka, haijalishi kama uko na virusi vya korona au la, salia nyumbani. Uokoe maisha.
Thank you.
Don't worry about it.
I'm Savannah.
John.
Nice to meet you, John.
Special Forces, huh? Yes, sir. Oh, you're on leave. Oh, I hope you're enjoying yourself. Yeah, I think I am. Hey, Pop, I got somebody I want you to meet.
I like your dad. He loves you. I can tell, even if you can't. The way people act around you, it's like they're scared of you.
Why don't you get your hands off me? Well, you're scared of who I used to be.
You don't scare me, John.
Well, you scare me.
Dear John, tell me everything. Write it all down. That way, we'll be with each other all the time, even if we're not with each other at all.
It's a full moon here tonight, which makes me think of you. Half a world away.
Letter number 8.
Letter number 33.
Dear John.
I miss you so much, it hurts.
Requesting permission to extend my tour, sir.
You've decided you're going back?
All I know is I want to stay here with you as long as I possibly can, and I need you to tell me. I don't... Cold ground and
Welcome back. Now moving on, the government has cautioned leaders in Narok against fanning tribal animosity amongst the various communities residing in the cosmopolitan county. Now the warning comes amidst disclosure by authorities that investigations indicated that the recent ethnic clashes that erupted in the region had been politically instigated.
Last month, a flare-up of clashes pitting two communities residing in Oloshopani and Oloposimori left 10 people dead. The deadly clashes prompted action from authorities, which have issued a warning to individuals fueling chaos among communities living in Narok County.
Leadership is leadership if you preserve life of the people you lead. We cannot call one a leader if he thrives in the blood of the people he leads. So we call upon all leaders of all ranks, of all categories, to preach peace, peace and nothing else, so that we have a prosperous Kenya that is one people, one nation, and one destiny.
According to police, investigations have indeed showed that a few individuals instigated the clashes that erupted in the recent past.
Ukiangalia mara nyingi tunakuta kwamba hizi vita zimechochewa kwa minajili ya kikabila, na tumesikia kwamba saa zingine ni viongozi ama wazee ama na vijana pia wanachochewa ndio waweze kuleta hii vita.
Narok County Investigation Officer Mwenda Efaiba warned that those found culpable will be brought to book.
Uchochezi haitasaidia chochote kwa sababu uchochezi imepelekea watu kukufa, watu wamepoteza maisha. Mpaka sasa kule Narok South na Narok North karibu watu 10 wamekufa, na tunawatafuta wale ambao wameleta hiyo uchochezi ambayo imeishia kuleta vita
na watu wamekufa.
As Kenyans, we must live as brothers and sisters. And for those who are bent on creating disharmony in this country, the law will not forgive you. The long arm of the government will catch up with you.
This even as he called on the youth not to be coerced by political leaders to perpetrate violence against fellow citizens.
And on matters regarding COVID-19, the government has launched an inspection tour of schools around the country to establish their readiness ahead of possible reopening in September. The assessment team will particularly narrow down its review on availability of running water for hand washing and whether there is adequate space in classrooms for effective social distancing. It is expected that the process will guide the level of investment that the government will need to undertake prior to reopening.
Speaking in Isiolo while inspecting facilities at Oldonyiro Primary and Oldonyiro Secondary Schools, the Chief Administrative Secretary for Education, Momina Bunaya, said that the ministry will conduct the inspection tours in all schools across the country, a move, she says, will aid the government's decision-making regarding the schools reopening as instructed by the President. Momina noting that for schools to be reopened, the institutions must have adhered to COVID-19 guidelines.
This exercise will continue countrywide. Our officers are already forwarding assessment of each and every school in terms of preparedness. And that will guide the level of investment that we'll need to undertake.
This is not something that I can take for.
In the meantime, KCPE candidates in Kiambu have benefited with revision books from the National Government Constituency Development Fund that would enhance their preparation for the national examinations. Speaking during the handing over of the books, Kiambu Town Legislator Jude Njomo said the books will be distributed to all candidates in every school so as to be able to continue learning during amid the pandemic.
Since we may not be able to have access to online learning, like maybe it is being done in some private schools and some privileged pupils, we have come up with revision books, which is made up of past KCPE past papers with questions and answers and some assistance that the students can get from the books.
In Busia, more than 80 school-going children were nabbed in one of the estates, making merry while indulging in drinking in total disregard of restrictions to curb COVID-19. Matayo's Sub-County Deputy County Commissioner Joseph Onyango said that the group aged between 10 and 20 were confined in a home whose owner was locked in Uganda as a result of COVID-19.
The officers came across a crowd of young people who are dancing and making merry. Some of them managed to escape upon seeing the officers. However, 82 of them were arrested.
Elsewhere, a group of about 200 women fishmongers has benefited from 3 boats bought from the Sokoni Ward Development Fund Kitty to cushion them from the adverse economic effects of COVID-19. Pweza Women Group Chairperson Rukia Pambajuma noted that although most of hotels which consume their products have been closed, they are still able to make good returns by selling their fish in the open-air market and restaurants.
Na county tumefurahi sana kwa miradi ila leo tutendea kama mama. Saa hii hata tuona kwa ofisi yake kwenda kuomba basari, hata tuona kwa ofisi yake kwenda kuomba unga, hata tuona kwa ofisi yake kwenda kufuata chochote kwake.
In Nakuru County, Area Governor Lee Kinyanjui said some medical facilities have been set aside as centers for treatment of the COVID-19 disease in case the numbers of positive cases continued to rise. He said that the government had released funds towards expanding the facilities towards this endeavor. In the nearby Laikipia County, the county government has embarked on local mass production of hospital beds in a bid to precipitate its preparedness efforts in combating COVID-19. The county is utilizing local vocational and training centers to surpass the 300-bed capacity requirement issued by President Uhuru Kenyatta as one of the measures to fight the pandemic.
The bed capacity is what I'm telling you, 200. I mean, the hospital is already rigged out for 200 beds, of which these are 70 beds there, and they are already, I think 70 or 60 already there. So we are progressing quite well.
In Kitui County, the administration is also working around the clock to meet this threshold in residence for patients' admission, even as talk heightens of possible lifting of cessation of movement restriction. The county has 74 bed capacity spread across its 4 isolation centers, which is a far cry from the proposed 300 beds. Area Governor Charity Ngilu said that resources were available for procuring the beds, while noting that prototype beds have been availed to Jua Kali artisans and will be ready soon.
We only have a bed capacity of 74, we as a county, but we have resources to increase the bed capacity to 300. And what we are doing as a county is to make sure that these beds are going to be made here by our own local Jua Kali artisans.
Beatrice Getonyeng-Etich, Channel 1 News.
Still on matters COVID-19, the coronavirus pandemic has not only presented a new challenge for the country's health system, but also complicated ongoing efforts by the government to ensure equitable access to healthcare resources, especially for those living with chronic illnesses. And as the country struggles to contain the spread of the virus, what precautions should those living with non-communicable diseases take?
These are immunity. What I mean by the body immunity is that they brings down the level, the ability of the body to protect itself against various infection. And therefore, during this time of COVID-19, taking into account that a person living with NCD, the immunity level is not as good as that of a normal person. And therefore, the need of a person living with NCD to take extra care.
And concerns remain rife that the high number of teenage pregnancies reported in the country could result in a high disease burden for the country, with those pregnant at risk of contracting HIV and AIDS and other sexually transmitted diseases. Maendeleo Wanawake National Chairperson Rehab Muyo says the government and stakeholders must intensify mitigation mechanisms in an effort to secure the future generation.
Hardly a day goes by before news outlets across the country report one form of child abuse or another. Cases of teenage pregnancies, defilement, child murders and molestations are disturbingly.
That the character of our children is important more than the education, the wealth we are looking for, the workplaces we are going to, the businesses, the pleasure, and the care of these children to house helps.
Moya says while it's easy to blame COVID-19 and its ripple effects, the country must be cognizant of associated effects of the obtaining situation.
It's disturbing to read in WhatsApp messages of children blaming their parents. As much as it is possible, parents, be there for your children. Get to know who they talk to and what they do the whole day when you are not present.
The concerns coming as the Teso South Sub-County Commissioner Willie Chaboy raised an alarm over the high number of pregnant schoolgirls within the region.
We still have incidences of schoolgirls getting pregnant. And I can say Teso South is not left behind. As we are talking in the whole sub-county, we have got 97 pregnant schoolgirls. Those are the ones we have been managing to pick.
Cheboy urging parents to be more keen, especially on the girl child who has become an easy target. Cheboy says some of the most affected sub-locations include Akoret, Ngelechom and Agolot. Despite the gravity of the situation, if unchecked, the situation could get worse, with the coronavirus pandemic delaying the reopening of schools even further. Caroline Kama reporting for Channel 1 Lunchtime News.
Now, on a separate matter, a historic religious edifice in Rabai sub-county in Kilifi County that had suffered serious deterioration has received funds for a major facelift. National Museums of Kenya Director General Mzalendo Kibunje said the German Embassy in Nairobi and the Anglican Church of Kenya have provided the bulk of 9 million shillings funding, while the National Museums of Kenya, which oversaw the restoration works, injected 2 million shillings. The Craft Memorial Rabai Museum, a rustic setting in the 19th century church structure, was built in 1846.
The medieval religious architecture was built by Johann Ludwig Krapf, a pioneer German missionary and explorer in East Africa. The museum depicts the long campaign to spread Christianity despite local resentment and hostility, and inside it is kept religious and cultural artifacts and records. Much of the museum focuses on the works of Johann Ludwig Krapf, who built the church with Johannes Webman. Speaking while on tour of Rabai heritage sites, National Museums of Kenya Director General Mzalendo Kibunje said restoration of the museum started last year, and so far, with renovation works on the ceiling of the building, a dilapidated front edifice already complete.
If Muslims make their way to Mecca to see where Christianity, where Islam began, I don't see the reason why Kenyans who are of a Christian faith do not make a trip to Rabai to see where it all began. Clearly, we go to Jerusalem, we go to Bethlehem, the birthplace of Jesus Christ. I would say that before you go to Israel, you must. I would want you to come and make a trip to Rabai and see where it all began.
He said the construction of the memorial with a religious and cultural background is being undertaken by the National Museums of Kenya, the Anglican Church of Kenya and the German Embassy.
Kutakuwa na mambo ya kompyuta. Kutakuwa na hall ingine ile ambayo kama mtu yuko na sherehe yake yote anaweza kuja kufanza. Kama kuna meetings hapa tutakuwa tumeekewa kila kitu sawa sawa.
The Federal Foreign Office of Germany has over the years contributed funds from the Cultural Preservation Program to support restoration and expansion of the Rabai Cultural Center. Part of the renovation works included converting the Krapf and Rebman cottages into a resource center for use by communities around and visiting heritage enthusiasts as well as students and researchers. Yusuf Farah, Channel 1 News.
Now, residents of Wambiru area of Kasarani in Nairobi staged demonstrations along Kangunda Road demanding protection against a faceless syndicate that is said to be evicting legitimate landowners. The locals expressed displeasure with security officers based in the area whom they accused of laxity amid increasing cases of land grabbing. They are demanding government intervention to ensure those with valid land documents are not left in the mercy of cartels.
Wambiru residents took to the streets along the Kangundo Road following a simmering land ownership dispute, pitting them against what they termed as organized cartels. The residents calling for protection from the area security teams amid allegations that a syndicate of land grabbers has been giving them sleepless nights through unmitigated evictions done in open disregard to the law.
Watu wa Kiambu ndio tumesumbana nao hapa sana. Hata kuniumiza ndio unaona wameniumiza hivi kunipiga. Kila mara niko polisi na nyang'anyo mpaka simu zangu na pesa juu hii kiwanja.
Kumekuwa na mng'ang'ano na wamekuwa wakituumiza. Sasa leo tumeamua kuandamana na tusaidiane ishamba yenyewe isiende.
They further alleged that police officers have failed to enforce a restraining order from the court, barring the alleged land developers from accessing the parcel in contention.
Wanasema kiwanja ni yao na sio yao, wanasema wako na title deed. Wanakuja hapa hawana hata court order, hawana nini. Tunawaitisha document, kazi yao tu ni kufurua watu na kupiga.
Those affected are now calling on the relevant authorities to establish facts on the land in question in a bid to restore sanity in the area. Nancy Okwari, Channel 1 News.
And on matters health, the Murang'a County government has embarked on the construction of a cancer center as part of ongoing efforts to improve healthcare services in the region. The facility, which will be completed in the next 6 months, will serve as a treatment and research center for cancer, which has taken a toll on many people in the country.
Cancer has remained a big challenge for the country's healthcare system, with the disease burden presenting one of the biggest tests yet for health experts. Speaking during the groundbreaking ceremony of the Cancer Center on Thursday, Murang'a Governor Mwangi Wairia said upon completion, the hospital will have the capacity to accommodate at least 300 patients. Wairia saying construction of the Cancer Center will adopt a similar model to the one used in the construction of the ICU center that was completed within 3 weeks.
Because we are doing a labor-based project. We are not learning any tender. We are using our young men allowed as manual casual laborers. We are using our fundis allowed. We are using the county government engineers. We have 5 engineers. They will be fully deployed here. So we are not learning any tender. And by doing that, we save the cost of this construction by over 50%, close to 40-50%. And also, we are also going to enhance.
The county boss adding that he has established contact with international cancer healthcare providers who are helping him in setting up the hospital.
Governor sent me to India for a month to go and look at the hospitals that deal with cancer. And I met so many patients from Nigeria, from Zambia, from Tanzania, from DR Congo. All patients in that region go to India for treatment. So this center or this hospital, the one we are calling Murang'a Regional Cancer Treatment and Research Hospital, will be of very great help in this region.
Yusuf Farah, Channel 1 News.
Now, the number of persons infected with COVID-19 disease have surged to 10,881,281, with 521,544 fatalities recorded since the first case was reported in Wuhan, China, according to data from Johns Hopkins University. The development coming as countries around the globe began gradual reopening of their economies.
Spain is reopening its borders to 12 non-EU countries from midnight, but Morocco, Algeria and China will not be among them, even though they are on the EU's safe list. Spain shares a land border with Morocco through its enclaves of Ceuta and Melilla. This as the EU opened infringement proceedings against Italy and Greece for breaching passengers' rights. Under EU rules, passengers are allowed a choice of cash refund for cancelled trips, as well as vouchers, with Italy and Greece only offering vouchers. The EU is also expected to approve the use of antiviral drug remdesivir for treating COVID-19 patients aged over 12 years. And the mayor of Belgrade in Serbia is expected to declare a state of emergency following a rise in cases. The decree will place limits on the number of people indoors, require social distancing of 1.5 meters, and tighten rules on wearing masks. Meanwhile, British Transport Secretary Grant Shapps says more than 50 countries, including key destinations such as France, Italy, Germany and Spain, will be on the list of places exempt from England's quarantine requirements from 10th of July. And Texas Governor Greg Abbott has ordered face coverings to be worn in public as coronavirus cases in the state surges. Texas hit a record of more than 8,000 virus cases in a day on Wednesday, up from 2,400 2 weeks ago. The United States has recorded 2.7 million cases and more than 128,000 deaths since the pandemic began. This as head of National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Dr. Anthony Fauci, said COVID-19 vaccines will reach late-stage clinical trials by late July, with other candidates following suit in August, September and October.
And on news making headlines in the business world, cat locally known as Mira is part of the bride price in the Wambiru community. According to the community's Council of Elders, Wambiru Cheke, dowry presented by a suitor must include a bundle of the stimulant in appreciation of the region's Mira growing culture. Tonight we continue with our 4-part series, Tourism Rebirth Post-COVID-19 in Meru.
Tigania and Igembe parts of the larger Meru County take pride in the Mira growing culture. Mira plays a key role in dowry negotiations among the Wambiru community. Mira is strongly linked to Tigania and Igembe ancestors. Folklore say its consumption was once restricted to the elders alone. We visited Jacob Kiamba's Mira farm in Igembe. He also does beekeeping.
Mtu akitoka Kisumu, akitoka Kosti, kitu ya kwanza akiingia hapa Meru anaheshimu Njuri Ncheke. Mtu akitaka bibi, kitu ya kwanza kabisa ile unapelekea huyo msichana apelekee baba yake ni Mira. Kwa vile inafungwa kwa lugha yetu ya Kemeru inaitwa ncholo. Inapofika kwa huyo baba wa msichana akipelekea yeye, kitu ya kwanza baba anauliza huyo msichana, hii Mira imekuja, nikule ama nisikule? Msichana anamwambia kula baba. Akimwambia kula baba, baba anajua ya kwamba huyu msichana anapenda huyo kijana.
Traditionally, the dowry package included a bundle of Mira, a drum of honey, a bull, and a blanket.
Kuhusu tena Mira yetu hii ambaye munaona, nikikosea msee mkubwa kusinda mimi, ni lazima napelekea yeye huyo Mira, namwambia baba, nimekukosea, sika hii Mira.
Area hii wote unategemea Mira. Mira ni mmea ambao ni wa kutoka enzi sababu zetu.
Members of this Council of Elders comprise of individuals held in high regard by the community. One has to have wisdom, personal discipline, and knowledge of the traditions, among other qualities. During the current global health crisis posed by COVID-19, the Njuri Ncheke have taken the lead in encouraging adherence to safety protocols, especially avoiding social gatherings such as dowry negotiations until such a time that it will be safe to do so.
Tunasaidiana na community kuinua pia Mira, especially our department ya agriculture inasaidia kuelimisha wale wadudu wana affect Mira, vile wataitibu ndio isiharibiwe na Mira.
Irene Mchuma Udim, Channel 1 in the county of Meru.
Well, thank you so much, Irene Muchuma Udim, for that report. Now, communities dependent on tourism activities in the Masai Mara Game Reserve have resorted to herding and selling their livestock to make ends meet. Now, this follows a lost income from tour guide services and sale of handmade artifacts, which have since collapsed as visitors stay away due to coronavirus travel restrictions. Here is Alan Aoko with the details.
Every year, the Masai Mara, known for its large population of lions, leopards, cheetahs, elephants, and millions of herbivores, hosts in excess of 300,000 domestic and international tourists that earn Narok County government at least 2 billion shillings in revenue through gate fees.
We are almost getting into July and we haven't seen that much herd of wildebeests coming into Mara. Unlike the previous year, like in 2019, by June, there were thousands, if not millions, of wildebeest already in Mara.
However, in 2020, the annual wildebeest migration that starts early July is expected to be delayed this year following the banning of grassland savanna along the Masai Mara Game Reserve, bordering the Serengeti National Park in Tanzania.
As you can see behind me, that is the Tanzanian side, and they're still banning. There's active banning going on right now. Even though banning grass is part of the grassland ecosystem, which normally helps grass to grow new shoots.
From the local Maasai community who leased their lands for wildlife conservation to tour guides, drivers and hoteliers who solely depend on tourism, life has never been the same.
Hii ugonjwa si mchezo, hii ugonjwa si ile kazi tulikuwa nayo zamani. Lazima turudi nyuma sasa.
Wilson Kiserian was a community tour guide at Entekesera Manyata, where tourists used to flock to learn about the rich Maasai culture. Is now jobless and back to herding livestock.
Tulikuwa tunauza ornaments zetu kwa wazungu, tunapata pesa, tunapeleka watoto shule, lakini kwa sasa tunakaa tu, hakuna kazi yenye tunafanya, hakuna biashara, hakuna wanunuzi. Kwa hivyo ile kitu kubwa imetusaidia ni wasanii tu wenye wanatupea chakula ya bure.
Locals have at the same time lamented that the 500 million shilling stimulus package meant to bring tourism back to its feet was allocated to hoteliers and airlines, but according to them, leaving out tour guides and drivers who play a huge role in the sector. They are now appealing to the government to consider allowing inter-county travel from Nairobi to enable domestic tourism at the park. Alan Naoko, Channel 1 Business.
And away from that, trading of Kenya Airways shares at the Nairobi bourse has been suspended beginning Friday to pave way for corporate restructure and government buyout in the backdrop of the publication of the National Management Aviation Bill 2020 in June. The suspension, which has been approved by the Capital Markets Authority, will last for a period of 3 months.
Kenya Airways share price has gone up by 31% in value a week after a proposed law seeking to collapse it into an aviation holding company was tabled in Parliament. According to the proposed law, KQ, Kenya Aviation Authority, and Aviation Investment Corporation will be subsidiaries in the Kenya Aviation Corporation, the proposed holding firm. The main agenda of the holding company is to improve the competitiveness of Kenya's aviation sector. The suspension has been approved by the Capital Markets Authority and takes effect on the 3rd of July 2020 and will last 90 days. Consequently, the company has applied for suspension of trading in its shares and closure of its register until the resolution of its future is determined. In the meantime, the national carrier plans to resume domestic and international passenger flights as soon as the travel ban imposed since March 22nd is lifted.
To enhance and mitigate on any risks of transmission. But the important thing is to ensure the public, to ensure our passengers in particular, that now we are ready, we are safe, and that we look forward to welcoming you on board.
However, this is dependent on the adoption of aviation safety protocols put in place by the Kenya Civil Aviation Authority to stem the spread of COVID-19.
Mombasa, Kisumu, and here we are at Eldoret. We have seen tremendous work that has been done to get our airports ready for restart of flight operations. I want to assure the Kenyan public and the travelers at large that we are ready. There are a few things that we are going to be tweaking between now and Saturday, but those are minor things. Over and above all, we are very ready to resume operations.
Kenya Airports Authority is currently inspecting 4 main airports to ascertain their level of preparedness. Acting Managing Director Alex Gitari says the airports are ready to commence operations, having integrated over 200 measures to ensure safety of passengers and crew during the COVID-19 pandemic. Passengers and staff are expected to adhere to the set protocols to ensure their health and safety. Regina Manyara reporting for Channel 1 Business.
And on the international scene, Japan has asked the U.S. to extradite a former Special Forces soldier and his son for allegedly helping ex-Nissan boss Carlos Ghosn flee from custody last year. Ex-Green Beret Michael Taylor and his son Peter were held in Massachusetts in May, several months after Japan had issued warrants for their arrest. Details of these and other stories in our Global Business Roundup.
The U.S. authorities confirmed a formal extradition request was submitted. Ghosn was detained in Japan on financial misconduct charges in 2018, made a dramatic escape last year. The former Nissan boss denies the charges against him. Despite being under house arrest and monitored 24 hours a day, on 29 December, he managed to fly to the Lebanese capital Beirut via Turkey. Details of Taylor's alleged involvement in the escape are unclear, but the Japanese prosecutors have said that the two were in Japan at the time and helped Ghosn evade security checks as he left. Meanwhile, social media platform Twitter is dropping the terms master, slave and blacklist in favor for more inclusive language. The terms are frequently used in programming codes which originated decades ago. US bank JP Morgan has also announced a similar move as more companies address racism following the killing of George Floyd by police in Minneapolis. Replacing the terms could cost millions and take months, according to experts. In programming speak, master refers to the main version of code that controls the slaves or replicas. Blacklist is used to describe terms that are automatically denied, typically forbidden websites. And holidaymakers will be bearing all the risk when overseas getaways return, as they face little chance of refunds if they go into self-isolation. Anyone who gets coronavirus symptoms at the time they are booked to go away is highly unlikely to get their money back when they cancel their holiday. Package holiday firms and travel insurance will probably not pay out. From next week, blanket restrictions on non-essential overseas travel are likely to be relaxed in the UK. Travel companies say that holiday bookings exploded after ministers announced that restrictions would be eased. That should mean UK holiday makers returning from lower-risk countries will not need to self-isolate for 14 days when they get home.
And in the sports arena, Liverpool head coach Jurgen Klopp has defended his squad's attitude after the recent crowned English Premier League champions were thrashed 4-0 by former champions Manchester City at the Etihad Stadium. The German has downplayed any notion by the Reds may have not been fully focused after celebrating their title win over the weekend in Italy. Roma were handed a shock 2-0 defeat by visitors Udinese in Rome. Well, thank you so much for keeping us company here on Channel 1 Lunchtime News. That's all we had for you this afternoon. We shall have more reports in our subsequent bulletins at 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. My name is Jackie Wambiru. Our sign language interpreter was Lensa Odinga. Have a lovely afternoon.
Beauty College.
Vera Beauty and